Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Bookshelf. I'm your host, Woody.
Lone gamer.
Sadly, Dreamer Girl couldn't be with us tonight. And I also hope that those watching have enjoyed our look at each of our members' bookshelves over the past 3 weeks. But tonight, me and Lone Gamer here are going to discuss one of the world's most popular superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever nickname you want to, whatever nickname you know him by, whether it's the Caped Crusader, the Dark Knight, he is Batman. Now, Batman has spanned 80 years on the printed page,
That's crazy.
making him one of the early vanguards of comic book superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
He's up there with the likes of, Namor, the Submariner, Superman, the Phantom, Captain America. And I think, it's difficult to argue the longevity, the cultural impact, and everything else associated with Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, we have seen the character evolve so much from the 1940s. We have seen him go from, the world's greatest detective to
Mm-hmm.
throwing hands with supervillains and cosmic entities and everything in between. And I mean, and the thing is, he's also crossed over the years with characters from other universes. I mean, who could forget the Batman and Spider-Man crossover in the 90s? The Batman and Punisher crossover in the 90s? I mean, the fact he's even crossed over with Aliens and Judge Dredd.
Hell, just recently, DC in general crossed over with Godzilla and King Kong.
Yeah, I mean, he's even gone toe to toe with the Power Rangers.
I was not aware of that one.
There was the Boom Studios Justice League Power Rangers crossover.
Hmm.
Batman has had a massive career, and he's
Mm-hmm.
crossed over with multiple people. But one of the things we wanted to also talk about here is some of our favorite Batman comic books and storylines that have happened over the years.
Some of them very popular. Some of them only certain people remember reading them.
Yeah, and some of those storylines have even been adapted into other forms of Batman media. I mean, I'm sure some of you there are some hardcore gamers out there and hardcore Batman fans who would probably know that Arkham Asylum, a serious house on Serious Earth, was adapted into the Arkham Asylum video game.
And I'm not gonna lie, I did not know that was an actual story until Woody over here mentioned it to me. I'm like, oh,
And to think this was a storyline that was written in the 80s, it was a storyline where the inmates have taken over Arkham Asylum, and it's a horror story where Batman has to go into Arkham Asylum on his own and not only quell the riot, but also put the inmates back where they belong. And along the way, he not only finds out about the history of Arkham, but also deep, intimate secrets about all the inmates of Arkham Asylum.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you think about the Arkham Asylum game, you learn a lot more about the grounds and everything about that through all the logs with Quincy Sharp. And as you play the Arkham Asylum game, you find all of Hugo Strange's interview tapes and case notes on the various inmates.
And very little, somewhat hidden details throughout the game.
Yeah.
Like, for example, can't remember exactly where, but you'll see, spoiler alert, by the way, you'll see x-rays of Hush throughout the game.
Yep. Yeah, that was in the one of the operating theater. I think it was before or after you fight Zsasz. But yeah, there's like little hit.
Probably after.
Yeah, it's when you sneak. But again, the whole idea of Arkham Asylum is you are Batman. You have limited supplies. You are practically on your own, and you're sneaking through Arkham Asylum, dealing with the various threats that the Joker has released since he's taken over the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is, it is very, very realistic in the fact that, yes, Batman is, a great martial artist. He's a master detective, but he's not invincible. As you learn very quickly when you're learning to play the game, you run headlong into a group of thugs, and they can quite quickly and easily overwhelm you.
Oh yeah.
If you're not careful. And there are moments in the game where you actually have to think, because if I remember rightly, there's like a corridor. You have to find an alternative route down, because if you go down the corridor, you get ambushed by a group of armed thugs who just machine gun you to death the second you get spotted.
Oh yeah.
And of course, the fight with Victor Zsasz, where you have to ambush him from behind, because if you run into the fight, he will kill the hostages. He's So, Gamer, tell us, you've been a Batman fan for how long now?
Long enough.
So, tell us a little bit about some of your favorite Batman stories.
Well, I would probably have to say one of my favorites is is a fan favorite throughout. The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, I think, as a standalone story, that is a very popular one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one that, fans have been waiting forever to get adapted into a movie of some description.
I mean, granted, it's been adapted into 2-part animated movie.
Yeah.
And it was slightly adapted in the DCEU way back in the day.
Yeah. Was that part of like the Gotham stuff, or was it in one of the movies?
It was basic. It was more so adapted in like the Batman vs Superman movie. Mostly.
Right, got
the armored suit.
Yeah.
That's basically in general, Batman's outfit throughout the DCEU, from Batman v Superman to Justice League,
is
designed from the Dark Knight Returns outfit.
And I I think it's also the big, bulky bat emblem that Batfleck uses as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think we could also argue, since we're also mentioning it, that Battinson, as fans refer to him now, is somewhat faithfully adapting Year One as a storyline.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, the Dark Knight Returns storyline, probably one of my all-time favorite Batman stories. Period. I mean, you have a guy who's, I forgot what age he was. He was up there in age, but he's big, freaking massive, and he's still going out there. I forgot what the reason was for him to put on the costume again, but he's out there. He's just beating the snot out of people.
Hmm.
Oh man, you'll see the characters like Catwoman, who now owns. I forgot what she owned in that series now. She
Yeah,
owned like some sort of club.
it was that whole story of Batman coming out of retirement one last time,
Mm-hmm.
donning the cowl.
And they did not shy away from some of the gory aspects of the action. For again, spoiler alert if anybody has seen it. He literally chucks a battering at Joker's eye, and it's stuck in his freaking eye socket.
Yep, I think yeah. Well, then again, that like late '80s, early '90s era for the standalone Batman stories, especially by Mark Miller, they didn't shy away from the more graphic content.
Because if I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, that whole fight sequence between him and the Joker was some of the gnarliest stuff. I mean,
Yeah, and
doesn't it
it was
he basically ends with Batman literally just throwing Joker to a wall. I think it like breaks his back or something,
yeah.
and then
I,
Joker
I,
getting
I,
one last laugh, literally just without using hands or anything, snaps his own neck right in front of
well,
him.
well, there was also it's been it. I think I love the fact that the ending was also left up in the air because you just see Batman holding the Joker's corpse as he's just after he's finished laughing, and the viewer is left to wonder: did the Joker succumb to his injuries just before getting one last laugh on Batman, or did Batman finally snap and kill the Joker?
Mm-hmm. And then what probably is the most famous part of that whole story, the drag out fight he has with Superman.
Yes. And I think it was also the fact that Mark Miller leaned into the more realistic aspects rather than, more modern authors relying on gadgets, trickery.
Mm-hmm.
You think how some writers would have done that Batman versus Superman fight. He would have used, kryptonite to weaken Superman beforehand.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I mean they sort of did that in the Batman versus Punisher storyline as well, with Batman and Castle having a drag out brawl.
Now that I did not know there was a crossover between.
Yeah, the nineties they had three crossovers with Batman. There was Batman. There was basically six books in that crossover because with that crossover, Marvel did a story and DC did a story.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that there was the Batman Punisher and Punisher Batman. There was Batman and Spider Man, and then there was also a Captain America and Batman set during World War II.
That would
Uh,
be interesting.
and that was the I'm sure you've probably seen the comic panel of Joker going, "I may be a lunatic, but I'm not a goddamn Nazi." That was from the Batman Captain America storyline, where basically the Joker and Red Skull form a temporary alliance.
Oh God. I'm not gonna lie, that would be, if something like that happened nowadays, that would be
Yeah, and the whole the concept is them combining the Joker venom and the Red Skull's deadly dust to create the ultimate dirty bomb. You just imagine, think it, back in the 90s, the Joker venom, what that did to people, and then the Red Skull's deadly dust. Yeah, they're sat there thinking, think of the billions upon billions of people we could kill just with this bomb.
oh God.
And then it, at the end of the book, the Joker just absolutely turns on the Red Skull
Of course.
because he realizes, wait a minute, it's 1941. He's a Nazi. I may be a lunatic, but I'm an American lunatic. Let's get him. And the fact is, I think the best part of that though is Joker and Red Skull spray each other with each other's own chemicals, and they find out they're both immune. But the interesting thing is the fact that in that book, Batman and Captain America do actually have a face-off, because as is the way.
Oh yeah.
And it turns out that, at least in this universe, Batman and Captain America are largely evenly matched. Yeah, they are both that skilled in hand to hand combat and are both that skilled in predicting each other's moves that they effectively cancel each other out.
Mm-hmm.
And Spider Man actually beat Batman in a fist fight. You've also got to remember, this was also a book that was written by DC. So, yes, DC actually allowed Spider Man to get one up on Batman in the 90s.
Oh, that's crazy.
And do you know how they, and it was actually cleverly written as well.
This I'm gonna have to read on myself because I gotta see this.
It was Spider-Man 1 simply down to his agility and spider sense. Which, yeah, realistically would happen.
Oh yeah.
The spider sense, and you got to remember, this was early 90s Spider-Man. Early 90s Spider-Man and early 90s Batman. So, yeah.
All right. What's one of your favorite all-time Batman stories?
I mean that's a difficult one because there's so many great Batman books out.
I
You can't.
know.
It's like you know, you know. Do you go with A Death in the Family? Do you go with Hush? The Court
Along,
of Owls.
along, along Halloween.
Oh yeah, the story that fans love. The
That actually
Killing.
got a two-part animated movie
Yep.
series.
The Killing Joke, which also got a movie recently. And that Brian Bolland cover of Joker holding the camera has been parodied so many times over the years.
Oh yeah.
You don't even need to have read The Killing Joke just to know that classic image of the Joker holding the camera with smile.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And I mean, that is such a great Batman story as well. And I think that was the one. I think the Killing Joke is one that also set up the Joker as a serious threat to Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that whole concept of one bad day, just one bad day. It's just one bad day for Commissioner Gordon. It's one bad day for Batman. It's one bad day for Barbara.
All it takes is one bad night to change lives forever.
Yeah. And you think, just how parts of that story are now ingrained in in Batman mythos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even, the Commissioner Gordon being kidnapped by the Joker and tortured. Yeah, that happened in Arkham Asylum, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Before being released. Oracle being, shot and paralyzed and left in a wheelchair.
And I'm pretty sure if people played the game, that was basically shown and adapted into the storyline for Arkham Knight.
Yep, exactly. So, and how many incarnations of Barbara Gordon since The Killing Joke, have had Barbara Gordon in a wheelchair being the support character of Oracle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and another story that was adapted into the story of Arkham Knight, Death in the Family.
Basically proving that ever since 1987, no one likes Jason Todd. I'm going to make this very obvious. We know the story where the Joker beats Jason Todd senseless with a crowbar, right? I'm not joking when I say this. In 1987, after that comic book was released, DC printed a 1-800 number where fans of the comic book could ring in and vote to whether Jason Todd lived or died. And and fans overwhelmingly voted for him to die.
But then it's kind of a good thing because eventually, in the story under the Red Hood, he becomes the Red Hood.
Yeah. So, but it just proves that ever since 1987, even now, no one likes Jason Todd. But I suppose without that Jason Todd storyline, though, we wouldn't have had the third Robin storyline.
Tim Drake.
Yeah, we would have had the Tim Drake storyline. Because if you think about it, that storyline where Robin's off doing his own thing as Nightwing. Batman is going down the path of vengeance because he's still reeling after the death of Jason Todd. And then here comes Tim Drake working out the story that Bruce Wayne is Batman and donning the Robin costume to help him heal. And then obviously Tim Drake being brought into the Batman family and being the person to help Batman heal after the loss of Jason Todd.
Mm-hmm. Oh man.
Yeah. And I suppose, Batman storylines, they still continue to be adapted now, some more successful than others. I mean, No Man's Land is a fantastic Batman story, You've got an earthquake sealing off Gotham City. Then you got various factions duking it out over control of Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
Which was partially adapted in the Gotham series.
And if you want to be technical about it, slightly the inspiration for a little bit of Arkham City and Arkham Knight. A little bit.
Yeah, but I mean the fact you've got the fact that Penguin holds territory, Joker holds territory, Two-Face holds territory, and each of the respective goons are fighting over not only fighting each other and fighting for control of Gotham City.
Oh.
So I suppose we cannot talk about 90s Batman without mentioning perhaps one of the most famous stories of that era. That being Knightfall. The infamous story where Bane breaks the Bat.
And we've all seen the comic panel.
Boom! Bane lifting Batman above his hands, snapping Batman's spine over his knees. I mean, the fact that and obviously the subsequent recovery of Batman with his broken back and Azrael adopting the mantle.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, both making appearances in the Arkham games. Since one of Bane's game over screens is him breaking the Batman and screaming, "The Bat is broken," before tossing him aside.
I remember. And it was slightly adapted into The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, and of course, in Arkham City, at various points, you can see Azrael lurking around, and if you throw a batarang at him, he disappears in a puff of smoke. So, what was the adaptation of Knightfall?
The whole in the movie Dark Knight Returns, the last Christian Bale Batman movie.
Remember, oh yes,
he basically breaks his back, and while he's in that prison or whatever, he's trying to recover.
Yeah.
But that's as far as that's an adaptation went, really.
Yeah. Bane breaking the Bat. Yeah, it's just. I mean, that is also obviously. Aside from obviously main storylines, there's also a lot of the Elseworld stories that came out of that period as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was also the now infamous Vampire Batman storylines. And of course, another Batman comic that got uh, recently turned into a movie was Gotham by Gaslight,
Ooh.
where Batman is now a Sherlock Holmes type detective, and we're in Victorian era Gotham City.
And going up against Jack the Ripper.
Yeah. So it's a very Sherlock Holmes style take
Mm-hmm.
on Batman. It's definitely well worth a read, even now, especially if you want to, take a look at some of that different style of Batman. I mean, the thing is, and I'm going to say this, DC did absolutely fantastic in that period with their Elseworlds books.
Oh yeah.
The whole idea of Elseworlds, if you've never heard of them, is they take a popular hero and they flip the script upside down and they put the hero in a completely different setting and timeline. One would be like you said, Gotham by Gaslight, where Batman is now a Sherlock Holmes style detective.
Mm-hmm.
Solving mysteries in the in 18th century Gotham City. You'd have one where Batman is a pirate. You'd have one where I think Superman was a Tarzan style jungle baby.
Yeah, because wasn't Elseworlds adapted into like an episode or two of the Batman Brave and the Bold?
Yeah. I mean, the thing I like, and of course, Red Sun being sort of Elseworlds, where Superman instead of crash landing on a farm in Kansas, he
Mm-hmm.
crash lands in Moscow.
Hence the story Superman Red Sun.
Yeah, and now he's the last son of Russia, complete with Russian Justice League.
That's probably my favorite alternate storyline for Superman right there.
Yeah, and the fact is, we'll never get over the fact of Batman wearing the Shankar hat with his uniform.
Batman being Russian in general is just a funny idea.
Yep. And there was also the idea. Oh, also the other thing I should mention is, for fans of it, Batman 66 has actually been adapted into a comic book series where they have continued the adventures, and of course there was the two movies they did of Batman 66 with the original cast.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, where they also had, I believe, William Shatner as Two-Face. So, I suppose, I think. Oof, well, the 90, as the 90s fade, we led into the new era of Batman. The new 52 storylines and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the big storylines of that era was obviously the Hush storyline,
Mm-hmm.
where the character of Hush takes on the mantle of Bruce Wayne.
Um and obviously
Yeah,
a storyline it's not just a 2-3 issue storyline, but You can also say another one for Batman is Batman Beyond, really, where
Yeah.
he's helping Terry McGinnis while he's the new Batman.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was, like we said, there was Batman R.I.P. That was another big storyline for that era.
Oh man, what's another one? What's another one?
Yeah, there's just that many. It's just difficult to really pick.
Oh man. Yeah. And with someone with like Batman, just so many to choose from.
Yep. Oh, there was also The Son of the Demon, which was released in 1987, where it was where Ra's al Ghul hires Batman to hunt down his wife's killer. And it's also the story where Batman falls in love with Talia al Ghul, and a storyline that wouldn't be resolved until almost 20 years later, when we get Damian Wayne.
That little shit. Oh man.
Of course, since you mentioned him earlier, yes, we had Under the Red Hood, where Jason Todd finally returns after his supposed death, thanks to the Lazarus Pit.
Mm-hmm.
And his him taking the mantle of the Red Hood, a name in which the Joker took when he first began his crime spree.
Before he even became the Joker.
Yes. Oh, well, not technically a Batman storyline, but you've probably heard the audio log by Kevin Conroy. There was the Justice League, the Tower of Babel. Now, this was basically the idea of Batman coming up with a contingency plan should any of the Justice League go rogue.
Mm-hmm.
He planned, like how he plans when it comes to taking down Green Arrow to blind him and break his arms. Like with the Flash, break his legs. Martian Manhunter, intense heat.
Because if I remember the name of it, it was adapted into an animated movie, Justice League Doom.
Yes. Now, the idea was in the Tower of Babel storyline, it was the fact that Ra's steals this contingency plan and basically slowly starts trying to take out the Justice League one by one.
Mm-hmm.
Using Batman's own contingency plan against them.
And they basically, and he even made a contingency plan against himself.
Yep.
The Justice League itself.
And he also said to use the whole idea of using his own family members against him.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of was the whole Martha thing in BVS.
Batman vs. Superman.
Superman says Martha. Which gets him to stop.
Man. What's another good storyline?
The Court of Owls from 2012. That was the one where basically we find out this powerful cabal known as the Court of Owls have literally been pulling the strings in Gotham City since day one.
Oh.
You know, nothing happens in the city without their say so. And then now we got Batman going up against perhaps the most powerful villain
Mm-hmm.
he's ever faced, a cabal of the super rich. Of course, then Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Strikes Again from 2001. That was the one where Batman, which kind of was adapted into Batman Beyond, where it was, Bruce in his old age, still fighting the never-ending battle in a dystopian future.
Mm-hmm. And another story of Batman, but it's not just obviously Batman, the entire DC universe, because it's been done in comics and it's done in games. Injustice.
Yep.
And we all know the whole storyline of that. Basically, just the Justice League's version of the Civil War.
Yep.
Of Marvel's Civil War.
Yeah, basically where you've got Batman versus Superman, each with their own team of heroes. And I think, and if I remember rightly, it was the fact that this was all kicked off because Superman snapped after the Joker killed Lois Lane. And ended up killing the Joker.
Mm-hmm. What's another one? Oh, and obviously another crossover, because I know it's been done in a game and in games. Marvel versus not DC versus Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
Have there been comments about it?
No.
Okay, so it was just a game then.
Yep.
Okay.
To be fair, though, I will say Batman 89 has had a comic book series where they have continued the whole storyline and what concepts that were made, what could have been for, Batman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about it is they've actually made a lot of those early concepts canon.
Yeah.
Where Prince's Party Man is now an official DC character, as is the Billy D. Williams Two-Face. And I think they've also used, it was either Kylie Minogue or Madonna as the basis for Harley Quinn. And of course, the idea of Marlon Wayans as Robin.
That concept still just blows my mind to this day. He almost was a Robin.
And of course, the Robin Williams Riddler.
Really?
Yeah. There was a point where Robin Williams was planned to be the Riddler.
Oh my god.
Uh, uh, uh,
I'm picturing that in my head right now. Oh my god.
but I love the fact that it's set in this weird junction point post Batman '89, but before Returns.
Oh man. I'm I just can't get the fact over my head more being the Riddler.
Yeah. And they also continued the concept from the Batman '89 comic book adaptation, where Alexander Knox, where it's believed Batman also fell to his death from Gotham Cathedral because Batman put his cowl on Alexander Knox. So Commissioner Gordon finds Alexander Knox laid on the floor, wearing Batman's cowl. And they say, oh, the police believe, oh yeah, Batman's dead. He's dead. He fell. So they take the body away. They take the thing off, and then obviously there's all this whole thing that it was all a hoax played by Alexander Knox,
Mm-hmm.
which still allows Batman to operate in secret.
Mm-hmm.
Which was this massive, which is a fantastic ploy, by the way. And I do wish we'd actually seen that in the movie. But yeah, they continued this. The Joker's dead. Harley Quinn is in Arkham Asylum. We got all this. You've got Prince. And if you remember the now infamous Party Man video where, Prince has got the half Batman makeup on, the half Joker makeup, and he's wearing the suit. That's the look he's wearing in the comic book. So there you have it. We now officially have it. Prince is now an official canon DC character. Oh yeah, the other thing there was also the Batman Predator comic book.
Oh boy.
Yeah. What can we say about that one?
I don't know who I should feel sorry for.
Well, if you remember, there was the Batman versus Predator from 1991. Now, the idea is that it's a three-part story. There was part one, just called Batman versus Predator. There was part two, where it was Batman versus Predator 2, Blood Match, and part three, Batman versus Predator 3, Blood Ties. Yes, and the first comic book, literally has Batman getting into a fist fight with a Predator.
That's scary and entertaining at the same time.
What Batman versus a Predator in a scrapyard and almost losing?
Yep.
And then that was the one where Batman has to literally invent a suit of Iron Man type armor to fight the Predator.
Oh, God.
And he does actually break his no killing rule against the Predator.
Really?
Yes, because he beats it senseless with a wooden baseball bat and then shoots it with a shotgun.
Okay then.
I suppose the no killing rule kind of goes out the window when you're fighting against a honor bound alien that's about to, remove your head from your shoulders.
I guess you can really say Batman was packing heat that day.
Oh yes. Ugh. The second one is the Huntress is hired by a drug lord named Toraro to kill Batman. Because, one of the many, 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 criminals, drug lords, mafia bosses that have put a bounty on Batman's head. Yeah, he's not the first. He's not going to be the last, is he?
No.
But this time, a predator lands in Gotham City. A second predator. And it was the Huntress that goes after the predators, trying to, claim it as a bounty and increase her skill. But Batman, having intelligence, now has anti-predator technology built into his batsuit, including an EMP built into his glove, which nullifies the creature's stuff. And then it comes now down to Batman and the Huntress teaming up to track down the creature.
Oh, man.
And then the final one is Batman vs. Predator 3, Blood Ties, which features Tim Drake. Where Gotham City, once again for the third time, becomes a trial hunting ground. And of course, this new Predator seeks to hunt Batman. Now, in this case, Mr. Freeze becomes the first witness to the predators, but survives simply down to the fact that his body, his armor, protects him from their infrared vision. Because if you think about it, the predators can only see body heat through infrared. Mr. Freeze being Sub-Zero, he's protected. Now, is this one where you've got the elder predator and the younger predator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the elder Batman literally stops the younger predator from killing Alfred and Robin by holding up one of the trinkets from the elder predator and tells him, "Go home." And just let me just put this out there: if early to mid 90s Batman tells you to go home, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
See, I was going to say the Batman Punisher. Even though there was two of them, there was Deadly Nights and Lake of Fire. Now, the Lake of Fire actually takes place post Nightfall because it was Jean-Paul Valley as Batman. It was Azrael.
Ah.
Because that was the one. Because the Azrael one, that was the one where Jigsaw and the Joker team up. And you've got that's and it turns out that Jigsaw and Joker prove a little too much for Azrael to handle by himself.
Yeah.
Of course, Punisher and Batman Deadly Night, that was the one where it was Punisher and Bruce. And that one was more of a mafia storyline. And it was more a detective story.
Mm-hmm.
Which, and if you think about it, it fits that 90s Punisher aesthetic.
Oh, yeah.
Where you've got, the Jigsaw teaming up with Gotham's seedy underworld and basically, causing mayhem on the streets of Gotham City. Of course, it wasn't the first one because one of the first Batman ones was Batman versus the Hulk in September 1981.
I vaguely remember hearing that one.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Where it turns out that Bruce Banner was working for Wayne Enterprises, working on a gamma gun that could cure diseases.
Huh.
And it turns out that the Joker steals the gamma gun, which causes the Bruce Banner to turn into the Hulk. And he goes on a rampage. But yeah. And it was one of the times when the Joker's like, oh, I may have bitten off more than I can chew because I've got to now deal with a rampaging Jolly Green Giant and Batman. And yes, it was that period when Batman only just about survives the clash with the Hulk, using only his speed to dodge it.
Anybody who survives a fight with the Hulk is an internal badass.
Yes. But yeah, it was one of those early appearances. So. There was, the Batman Captain America. There was a Daredevil Batman, which I do actually want to read. There was a Daredevil Batman storyline as well that I do actually want to read.
Ooh.
Now, listen to this synopsis. It's Billy Club versus Batarang when DD meets the Dark Knight. When you think about it, Daredevil and Batman have a lot in common. Both lost their parents at a young age, both prowl urban jungles, and both strike fear into the hearts of the superstitious and the cowardly of criminals. So why are they at each other's throats? Maybe it's because Batman has chased Two-Face and Mr. Hyde into the Big Apple, and it's soon to learn that he's not in Gotham City anymore.
Oh boy. Oh.
Oh, that sounds like. And this was released in 1997.
Oh boy. Yeah, if you find, let me know when you find that because, that's Oh, that just sounds like a good time.
I mean, Batman and Daredevil side by side battling Harvey Dent and Mr. Hyde.
Hmm.
I definitely do want to read that one.
Yeah.
Because they also did a sequel to that one of Batman Daredevil, The King of New York. The solicit for this one is when Catwoman steals important files on the Kingpin and takes them to Gotham, Daredevil follows. And of course, there he meets up with Gotham's resident Dark Knight, the Batman. The two of them figure out that the Scarecrow is behind the plot, and he's planning something big. It's hard enough for them to track him down as it is, and when the Kingpin butts in, and tries to smoke them both.
Oh, the Kingpin's gonna get his ass whooped.
So you've got
Kingpin is gonna lose some blood on that one.
so you've got the Kingpin, you've got the Scarecrow, and you've got Catwoman.
Oh yeah. I feel sorry for who goes up against Batman and Daredevil there.
Oh, so basically, from what I'm reading with this one, it's Kingpin versus Scarecrow with Batman and Daredevil in the middle.
Oh God. And we all know who's gonna win that one.
Well, who would your money be on in a face off between the Kingpin and Scarecrow?
Neither, because you know the Batman and Daredevil are gonna be there and just cook the crap out of both of them.
Yep. So Spider-Man and Batman, Disordered Minds. The solicit for that one was it takes place sometime after Maximum Carnage. Because that one is the one where you have the Joker and Carnage side by side. Two of their most deranged foes in 1995. And it's interesting because in this timeline, it was Ravenloft realizes they can't deal with Cletus Cassidy anymore, so they send him to Arkham, hoping they can fix him.
Yeah, that's not gonna go over well.
No. Basically, the idea is Joker and Carnage are being used by experimental technology in Arkham to basically fix their mental problems.
Oh man.
It turns out that the chip they put in their brains didn't actually was bypassed by the symbiote. And yes, it was actually one of these storylines where Carnage actually beats Batman. And is about to kill him when he's stopped by the Joker. Because in this storyline, Gamer, it was Joker that tells Carnage, "Only I get to kill the Bat."
Oh boy.
So that's how what happens. The story, and that's the turning point of the story. Joker and Carnage get along until the point where they're like, "Wait, no, 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 no! You don't get to kill him. I get to kill him. I get to unleash the bomb that kills everybody, not you." And of course, you get because this is mid '90s Joker. He's pushing Spider-Man into the one bad day. He's
Mhm.
pushing the Joker is pushing Spider-Man's buttons to turn him into a cold-blooded killer. What does that tell you?
Oh, it's just gonna be bad.
That's one of them ones where it's like Carnage is too insane for Batman and Arkham, and Joker is pushing Spider-Man to have one bad day.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah, wow. That's some of the Batman storylines, obviously, and then there's Batman's part in the JLA Avengers crossover from 2003.
oh. It's still gonna be good.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, Batman versus Batman Captain America. That was the John Byrne. Yeah, that was the first story. Was Captain America and Bucky are ordered stateside for a secret mission where they encounter Batman and Robin. The Gotham Project has been discovered, and it's up to the two teams to stop the plans of the Joker and the Red Skull. Yeah, and that's obviously the Joker's line of, I may be a criminal lunatic, but I'm an American criminal lunatic.
That is one fight I'd be looking at you like, you bring the beer, I bring the popcorn.
Yep. So you see that even in the night, so yeah, that was wow. Some of the then there was the Batman Aliens storyline in 1997. Because if I remember rightly, that was the one where I believe, wasn't it that some aliens have been found, an alien hive was found under Gotham City? Or was that? Oh, that was one. Yeah, that was. Oh no, that was the second one. The first one is where some aliens have been found in the Guatemalan jungle, and obviously he battles the aliens first time round, and then in the second one, that was the one where it turns out some aliens have built a hive under the Gotham City, and they've been there since the 1920s. And that's the one where they also have alien hybrids of Joker, Two-Face, Scarecrow, Mr. Freeze, and Poison Ivy.
Oh God, I'm just picturing those in my head right now.
Yep.
I'm intrigued by the alien and freeze hybrid one. That one intrigues me.
They also used Killer Croc's DNA as well.
Alien and Killer Croc hybrid. Oh God, that's just nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Now, that, and they're the worst ones because they're now completely animalistic. But then again, I will also say, if you're also a big fan of the '90s, you should surely some of you out there might remember Batman versus Judge Dredd: Judgment on Gotham from 1991.
Oh Lord.
Yes, we all remember Judge Dredd, the super cop from 2000 AD comics. And in this story, Judge Death goes back in time to Gotham City. Judge Dredd follows. And this is when we have our first meeting between Judge Dredd and Batman, where Batman accidentally time jumps to Mega City 1. So now Batman is in the far-flung future. So in Mega City 1, Dredd arrests Batman for possession of illegal weapons, aka his utility belt, and being a vigilante. Vigilantes insisting Batman serve 20 years for his crimes. While in the past, Judge Death and Scarecrow join forces to create a new fear toxin.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And you've also got Mean Machine Angel in their storyline as well, where he gets stuck on back in Gotham City. He gets stuck in a berserker frenzy, and he starts smashing up a heavy metal concert. But yeah, there was Batman versus Judge Dredd again. That was, I think, one of the real biggest outsider storylines until recent years. You know, where we had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossovers and Power Rangers.
Now that I'm just thinking about it, and another reference they made in a game.
Yep.
Wasn't there like a Batman and Spawn like story?
I believe there was. I'll actually have to research that one.
Because I know they mentioned it. They mentioned it in before Fight Panther in Mortal Kombat 11 between Spawn and I believe somebody.
Yes, Batman vs. Spawn was released in 1994. That was the one where Batman comes to New York City in his search for an arsenal of high-tech weapons and robots that use decapitated human heads as their brains. Antagonistic, confrontational, and suspicious of each other, Spawn and Batman engage in violent battles before realizing They are both after the same villain. Begrudgingly, they decide to work together. The person they seek has been kidnapping and decapitating the homeless for use in robots. But that's only part of their plan. There is also a nuclear arsenal ready to be deployed. Also, interesting thing, Gamer,
Mm-hmm.
it's set in just after The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh,
And the unmasked Spawn still has that scar on his cheek from where he was hit by Batman's Batarang. And to which Spawn has referred to Batman in later episodes, later comics, as that bozo in black.
oh, that is perfect.
Sadly, I am not Keith David, so I cannot do, or Michael Jai White, so I can't do the Spawn voice of that
Oh,
bozo.
I'm picturing it in my head.
Yep. So you just imagine, Keith David Spawn just referring to Batman to some person later as that bozo in black.
And then I'm picturing it in my head, and I'm pretty sure he'd say this out loud. Spawn meeting the Joker, and the first thing coming out of his mouth is, I hate clowns.
Yeah. Though there was also a second book called Batman Spawn, War Devil.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Where in this story, it's the story of Virginia Dare and Roanoke Colony. Matches Malone is looking for clues on a missing man named Virgil Dare. Batman follows Dare to Gotham Tower, a building project led by Simon Vesper, a man murdered by Spawn. Batman finds Dare and learns he's been working to fulfill Vesper's plans. Vesper reappears the day before the opening ceremony. Vesper attacks and kills Dare, making a pentagram out of his blood and spelling out Croatan above it. Batman and Spawn fight, with Batman coming out on top. Batman and Spawn begin working together to solve the mystery. Gotham Tower lights up brightly, and a pentagram of burning buildings starts while the rest of Gotham goes dark. Gotham's dead start to rise. Vesper is actually the demon Croatan working for Satan to collect souls for the Devil's Army. Spawn battles Croatan but is overpowered. Batman helps Spawn just in time. The dead return to their graves, and the doorway to hell is closed. So this is basically it's an early story where Spawn is a general in the army.
Mm-hmm.
And this meeting with Batman is sort of one of the many inspirations to start using his powers for good. Resist Satan. And if you are wanting to get this, you can actually get Batman and Spawn, the classic collection, which has been released in a comic book. So you can find these. So you can find these books on eBay. They have been reissued multiple times. Some of the ones we mentioned, you might have to hunt for at your local comic book store or eBay.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll probably be able to find them fairly cheap these days. And before one last thing, yes, there was the Batman Ninja Turtles movie that came out
That too, yeah.
recently. And I think even if you haven't watched the full movie, you've probably all seen that infamous fight scene between Batman and the Shredder, and how brutal that was,
Mm-hmm.
and how much that the Shredder and Batman tanked each other's hits. And of course, yeah, there was the Batman and the Power Rangers crossover, which was part of the early Power Rangers storyline by Boom Studios, and I think that was the
Mm-hmm.
first major crossover they did. And it had I think I believe the first part of that story had Zack being captured by Batman, who actually manages to go to which and fair play to him, Zack actually manages to go toe to toe with Batman. And let's be real. And I'm going to say this, you know, we are dealing with what we call the two Batman paradox. Some of these stories we mentioned where Batman is, he's the world's greatest detective, but he's also a human being at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's highly skilled, but he's got no superpowers, and he's easily beaten. He can be beaten.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have what we consider the Super Batman, which has been obviously in the Justice League and other comics, where he's been upscaled in power to match the people he's fighting with and against.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be real, if it was the world's greatest detective versus Darkseid, obviously Darkseid would turn Batman into a red smear on the side of in an alleyway somewhere.
Oh yeah.
So obviously they have to. So DC obviously powering up Batman to match these cosmic entities.
Mm-hmm.
Now I will say that this whole Batman's power leveling, it does divide fans an awful lot. Let's be real. There are some Bat fans out there that prefer the world's greatest detective, who relies on his skills, his ingenuity, and his gadgets to save the day. And then there are obviously people who like the I'm the goddamn Batman who punches gods.
Yeah. One thing is for certain, no matter what version of Batman you choose, it's always the same. Just make sure he's not going after you, because you're probably screwed regardless.
Yeah. So unless it's the world's greatest detective one, where you actually might have a chance to fight back.
Might.
Yeah. Look, you can fight back.
You might not win, but you can fight back.
Yeah, you might be able to beat him up a little bit. But yeah. So hopefully, we've inspired some of you guys out there to try and have a look at some of these Batman comic books.
I know there's a few of these stories I'm going to have to look up for myself later.
Yeah. Honestly, look on eBay, look in your local comic shop, look on these various websites we tell you. They'll probably be on there.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, it doesn't. Being a comic collector, it doesn't really matter if you get the original issues or or one of the many reissues, because you know. Though I will sometimes say that if you can get the collected reprints, because at least that way you'll get some extra content, extra stories,
Mm-hmm.
and so on. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed this look at some of our favorite Batman stories. I've been Woody,
Lone Gamer.
and we'd like to thank you very much for joining us, and good night.